There's two of
So
us.
yeah. Well, today we have Colin on the show. No, welcome to another show. This is investing right now. We're gonna. So last time we were gonna talk about our entire portfolio, and I feel like we went on a lot of tangents. So this time we wrote down every single property. We're gonna go through how we got it, when, what it did for us, why we would do it again or not do it again. Spoiler alert: I would do everything again because I like where we are now, and I like the trajectory we're on. But Colin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is funny though because I think we were like, as we're prepping for this episode, we're chit chatting back and forth, and I forget. Oh, we were talking about taxes because we're forever like between CPAs. I don't know. I feel like we've yet to find one that's just been dialed in and just works well for us. And it sounds like maybe these ones are doing a good job, but not communicating well,
Mhm.
which is part of the problem. So as we were talking about that, I was saying how I missed uh, back when I was just a nurse and I could just do my taxes on TurboTax, and 90% of the time I would get a refund. And so Josh was saying the same for him as far as anesthesia, but then
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we wouldn't change this.
No. Yeah. I mean, it was the good old days, but at the same time, the time that I spend doing side hustles and real estate before we did this, I would just turn on the TV. So that's not great either.
I think more than anything, like there's a lot more free time before, but I think like now what really I don't know. Yesterday I was walking the dogs at night, and we got the little track out here where we're kind of walking along this river. There's a bunch of oak trees, and I just stopped, and I was not holding my baby this time. I was holding a beer this time. So maybe that's why I was like thinking so deeply.
Did you put your beer to sleep? Do you have tips and tricks for that?
I do have tips and tricks for that as well, yeah. Um, but anyways, I was just like staring at the trees, and I was just thinking like, man, there's not a lot of time that I can just like stand and like space out and just be outside and just kind of be free, where I'm not thinking about something or thinking that I need to do something or I need to be somewhere.
Hmm.
And I think there was a lot more of that. I think there was a lot more of that when we were just doing nursing. A lot more because it was like, yeah, you clock in, you clock out, and you're just off. You're off until the next time you have to work. And I definitely miss that. But I think like in, let's say, so I'm 38 now, so in another 30 years, I think I will really appreciate my 38-year-old self when I'm not still working at the bedside and like still having to go in for 36 hours a week and I can't even imagine where nursing is going to be in 30 years. So that's
Mm,
that's that's what we're working for.
right. And I mean, I don't know if I'm sure we've talked about it. I can't speak English right now, but we were on a 10-year track for you to get out of nursing completely. I feel like that was the original goal, right? And we're
I,
5 years in, so we'll see what in 5 years what it looks like. Maybe you're out, maybe not.
yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. So I always had 40 in my mind. I always told myself I could do nursing until 40, and that's coming up pretty quick here, which is crazy. But
Old man. Jeez.
it's weird
I remember my
until
dad's 40th birthday, and I was like, "Wow, you're just picking out your casket these days, aren't you?"
the thing is I feel great. Like I actually feel awesome. Awesome's a weird word to say about myself, but I'm awesome. No, but I do. I feel great. Like I feel, I don't know. I want to say for the most part, I feel stronger now than I did then. I'm not as fit in terms of like I couldn't go out and play a 90-minute soccer game like I used to, but that's just because I don't run anymore. And if I started running again, I would probably be able to achieve that level of fitness again.
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel great. It's just it's weird because I think when I was younger, when I was like 16, high school age, I thought 40 was like so old. And now as I'm creeping up on it, I still feel like I'm 20. So I don't know. At some point, I'm sure my body's gonna be like, nah, you're old now.
Aside from that gray patch that's getting larger, you still look pretty young. You look pretty awesome.
Yeah, I do. Awesome is a good word. Yeah, I would describe it as that. And this is why we can't get through our portfolio, because we go off on these tangents immediately. So before we go into
Yeah.
our portfolio, recently Josh had a meeting of Region 4. I'm probably butchering this, but
Butchering it.
Josh had a meeting of Region 4 nurse anesthesiologists in Wisconsin, which I didn't even know that there were that many people or nurse anesthesiologists in your area. So where was that? How'd it go? What was it all
Yeah.
about?
It was great. So I was asked to be the Region 4 director for the Wisconsin Association of Nurse Anesthetists. Actually,
Nerd.
the Wisconsin state has not changed our name yet, so we're still the Wisconsin Association of Nurse Anesthetists.
How much time did that particular topic take up at this meeting?
0. So this was
Oh,
one of the
come
first
on.
meetings we've had in a few years. So this was just a networking event.
Sounds like the director's not doing their job very well.
Well, I actually had a sponsor to come and pay for everything, and then because it was hosted at a brewery, that they had to cancel just a couple weeks ago. So
Was it a Seventh-day Adventist sponsor?
No.
No offense.
I'm not going to name them because then that's giving them marketing that they don't deserve. But it was a med company that was going to sponsor it. So they were gonna, if they were sponsoring it, they were gonna have to do like a couple minute talk just to talk about, oh, our drug is so good. But then they were gonna pay for everything. So we're gonna do it again, and I'm just gonna make sure that they book the location so they can't back out again.
Wait, so they couldn't do it because it was a brewery?
Right.
Because of the alcohol?
Yes.
Oh.
They have certain rules that they have to follow, and I guess brewery being in the name of the restaurant is not okay.
What about BJ's?
They could probably go to like tap houses or whatever, but brewery is a negative for them.
That's so weird. Sales isn't what it used to be, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So anyways, so you had it.
Yep, hosted it here. Region 4, that encompasses the Fox Valley, Green Bay, Appleton, some of the rural north, some of the rural around Green Bay, about 45 minutes each side, I think. But yeah, for the most part, it's the Fox Valley area. We had a pretty good showing. There was only 4 CRNAs that showed up, so I'd like a few more CRNAs to show up. It was mostly residents, CRNA residents. Yeah.
Oh, so are those students?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. They have changed the terminology, so it's actually they're called residents.
Oh, nice. But
students, residents, it's interchangeable. Yeah.
So anesthesia, or like, CRNA school is like nursing school, right? You're doing your residency or your clinicals simultaneously while you're doing the actual schooling.
Yeah, well, it depends on what school you go to. So you can have either a front-loaded program or an integrated program. This particular program, the one I went to, and this one that UW Oshkosh actually, so it's front-loaded. So you have a 1 year of didactics where you're in the OR a few times the whole year. And then you go from didactics to your residency or training, clinical training, which is another 2 years, where that's your sole focus, 40 hours a week. Well, plus probably a lot more than that in some cases, where you're still doing some books and learning on the side, but you're full-time hospital training. So it is more of a residency.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize it was set up like that. I thought it was just like simultaneous, like we did in nursing school, where it was like,
where we have like 6 weeks of practicum and then you're turned loose.
I know. I forget who I was talking to recently. Anyway, I was talking to somebody recently, and they were saying something about, nursing school and being nervous about. Oh, it was she was a new grad, new hire at the hospital, and it was her first day. And I think I was doing my stroke program stuff that day. So I went and I was talking to them about their stroke patient. And then I ended up riding the elevator down with her to the CAF. And she was just like, oh, yeah, it's just so crazy being here. Like now actually being on the floor. And right before that, I'd seen her like trying to load a pump, and she's like shaking and like can't get the thing right. And I was like, dude, don't worry about it. Like 2-3 months, you're going to like look back on this first day and you're just going to be so comfortable. And it's just going to seem like it's kind of silly how nervous you were today. I was like, but also keep in mind that the 2 years or whatever, 3 years of nursing school do very little to prepare you for actual like work as a nurse. And maybe that was just me because I didn't pay a lot of attention in nursing school. I always did well in clinicals, but even then it was like being on the floor, being on your own. it was a whole different thing.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, same. I didn't learn. So if I had 4 years of nursing school, I learned more in my first 2 months of actually being a nurse than
Oh
all of
yeah.
nursing school. Yeah, no. So it's a little different.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
don't.
I
Yeah,
had a 6-month new grad training, and because I went straight into ER, and in that 6 months, yeah, I for sure learned 10 times more than I learned in nursing school. But a lot of that just goes back to the way I learn. Like I learned better hands on.
right.
So
Yeah, yeah. So I have some anesthesia residents that come through to some of the hospitals I work at, and most of the time, like you're never going to be good the first time you do something. And so I just try to tell them that I was like, that's why your training is 2 years, is so you can do this 1,000 times, and then towards the end you get really good at it.
yeah.
So don't be hard on yourself when you're not good at it your first 10 times.
Yeah, because these kids trying to start IVs. First of all, somebody's teaching them a weird way to hold the needle where they're like covering the little window where you see like the
The
flash of blood.
flash, yeah, that's not
I was
cool.
like I was like, "Who is teaching you guys to hold them like this?" And they were telling me,
It's like, any names?
well, so they were telling me that. I was like, "Who's teaching you guys though?" They're like, "Oh, well, they're like teaching us this in clinical." And so their instructor also works in the hospital, and she came one time. She came down to the ER, and I was like, "Who's teaching these kids to do IVs? Because they're all holding them super weird." She's like, "I teach the kids how to do IVs." And
That's what.
I was showing her how they were holding them, and she was like, "Well, that's not how I'm teaching them." So
Oh,
I don't know where the disconnect was,
I was
but
nervous.
I don't know. But as soon as she
Kids.
left, I ripped into those 2 students that were in there. I was like, "You guys threw me under the bus. You were sitting right there, and you didn't tell me that was her. You may."
It's just like, did you send me that reel of Ted Lasso? Or was that
No.
no, that was Sony that sent that. Oh man, it's where she called whatever. It's if you watch Ted Lasso, you might remember the reference, but we don't need
Yeah.
to go there.
Well, real quick, not that you asked, not that you care, but we did have our stroke survey this week with the Joint Commission. Rocked it.
Rocked it. Well, so you could have come out for 4th of July then, is what you're saying?
Uh,
Or was that never the
Potent
plan?
No, the problem was is I didn't know when it was. So
Oh,
I
gotcha.
couldn't book any trips because they just tell you, I think it's 7 business days in advance. They tell you, "We'll be there on this date." So that was the whole
Oh.
problem. So I
So now you're like stroke certified hospital or
no, we were, but now we continue to be because I didn't fail. And and
so
uh
just whatever that term is, just what's that term where you just stay the same? It's like an
copacetic.
yes. No, that's not what I was thinking of.
Uh,
That's good enough.
yeah. Yeah, no, it was, um but, like, from 2 years ago when we were surveyed to now, we had 7 findings 2 years ago, we only had 3 this year, and they're very mild findings.
And what do you mean
Um
findings? Strokes that happened without you guys knowing?
No, like, for example, they'll look at, what they'll go through your chart, and if they see that something wasn't documented correctly in the chart, and, that'll be like a fallout or a finding, and then you have to basically create a plan to correct that. Um So it could be any number of things. It could be like, you know, blood pressure documentation, or just different things like that. Like it could be very simple.
Or the
I think
window to TPA was too long, like that type of stuff where
yeah,
that's
like if
different.
you were over the 60-minute mark for giving TNK, that would be a finding, and so you'd have to correct that, create a plan to correct that.
TNK? It's
Yeah,
not
we don't.
TPA anymore?
No, we give TNK now, and it's amazing.
Uh, this is news to me.
So
Apparently, you don't have anesthesia in the middle of a stroke,
no.
so I'm not familiar with such medications.
You have the anesthesia. Actually, you do have anesthesia in the middle of the stroke. Something that I see all the time is all these people that are post-op having strokes, and the problem with it is that you
Well,
don't
that's
know
not
when the
good.
so it's like or it's like cardiac patients,
Oh,
and then like ortho patients, more so the cardiac patients, but you see them having strokes post procedure, but you have a hard time like dialing in when their last known well time was because of the anesthesia, because they're kind of waking up and you're noting some deficits, but you don't know if it's anesthesia or if it's a stroke. And then in cases where, you have an open heart surgery, some of these people are intubated and sedated for a couple days afterwards. So then they wake
Yeah.
up and they got a deficit somewhere, and you don't know when it happened. So not to say that they would be candidates for thrombolytics anyways, but they could potentially get shipped out for thrombectomy. But anyways, so TNK though, so we'll touch on a little nursing stuff for a moment here, or medical stuff. But TNK, TPA back in the day, we used to have to mix it. It was like a 100 milligram vial. You'd have to waste 10 milligrams immediately. Then you'd have to give a 10% of the total dose over like the first minute as a bolus, and then the rest over an hour. And I actually had a patient one time in LA, and I had to ride in the back of the ambulance because it was LA Fire that was transporting the patient. And because we had started TPA per the recommendations of neurology at Cedars, the main hospital we were going to, we had to ride in the back of the ambulance to the hospital so she could get the TPA en route to the hospital, and then transfer the patient to IR there. And then they had to give us a ride back in the ambulance, which was awesome, just because I got to leave the hospital for like 2.5, 3 hours.
Nice.
But now with TNK, it's you mix it, and max dose is 25 milligrams, and it's a push over 5 seconds, and that's it. And so then if you got to transfer, and especially for us, we're not rural, but we are kind of remote. We ship a lot of people out. So to be able to just, and our 2 TNK cases back in April, both of them got flown out, and both of them got a quick bolus, and then just flew them out to other hospitals for thrombectomy. And so
Nice.
it's so much easier now with that.
So none of your nurses get vacations for 3 hours anymore.
No, unfortunately, that is, yeah. So anyways, all right, that was nursing stuff.
Back to investing.
Back to investing. Back to
let's figure out how to not have to deal with any of this ever again.
Yeah.
No. Okay. So yeah, we're going to talk trajectory of where we started. So we formulated our LLC back in 2019, and it's crazy to think that how we used to think how difficult it was to form an LLC. We're like, oh, who do I talk to do this? Now I can hop on a website and do it really quick in like a couple minutes. But at the time, we had to find somebody that would do it for us.
I think the interesting thing about that too is that growing up hearing about businesses and all that stuff, I always thought it was a way more formal process for how businesses were named and created. And as we went through our process,
you ask the government for a few examples and you pick one.
Yeah, something like that. And it was like a big thing where you had to, like get approval and all this. I didn't think that you could just be sitting around quoting New Girl and then name a business
all day. Yeah, so we're all day investments because of New Girl. But we formulated that thinking that we had to have that before we started searching for a rental property. Turns out you don't even need an LLC to buy your first several properties. But anyway, we formulated that in 2019 when we started looking, because we thought it felt official. Like, now we can start looking.
But then we bought the first property personally.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, it was because of loans, because we couldn't, because the LLC, to get a loan on an LLC, you need to show 2 years of income, and there was no years of income there. So we had to buy it. And then the goal was to transfer it from our personal names to the LLC, which we never did.
Yeah. And I think on that one, you were like the only one listed. And I don't know why.
On the LLC? No, on our first property.
On the first property. I remember with that first property looking at it, I'm pretty sure you were the only one listed on it. And which again was fine, because the way we operate, but in other cases that could have been an issue had we broken up somewhere between buying and selling.
Which we came close, not because of us.
You and I never broke up. We would never.
Yeah. Anyway, so there was a first property that our first offer, I guess, on a property was a small house for $40,000, and doing some walkthroughs and stuff, we saw some water in the basement, and that was terrifying. Turns out a lot of older homes, if it rains a ton, you get a little water in the basement.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal. It's the old foundations just kind of leak a little bit, and it's not a big deal. But was kind of scary, but we put an offer in on it anyway. And what happened after that? You calling?
Well, this was the one where, yeah, we this is like our brand new first investment, first offer, and I think you were already a CRNA at the time. I was doing a travel assignment, so I was making decent money, but my income was kind of weird because of the travel. Um, but they wouldn't approve us together because Josh had just done a big refinance or bought your house or something.
2019. Yeah. So we just bought our house. I think it had to do with my debt to income was the ratio was too high.
Yeah,
I mean, at the time I had almost 200 grand of student loan debt. So I think they saw that and that scared them away a little bit.
and you just bought the house.
We had just bought our house. We had just bought the Honda, the van, our minivan.
Oh,
We had just
RIP.
bought that. Yeah.
But
We had-
anyways, it was. I mean, your gross income was still ridiculous, and you made way more than I did. But I guess just because of the debt to income ratio, we couldn't qualify together. So we had to remove Josh from the loan, and it was just going to be me on the loan. But then I had to buy it as a second home to get the financing, so we didn't have to come out of pocket with like the full 20 or 25%. Um,
Even
and
though we didn't have a first home, or you didn't have a first home, right?
Yeah, I didn't have a first home. So, but it was going to be like my second home, vacation home that I intended to use however many months out of the year. And they wanted us to write a letter to the
Oh,
tenants
that's
that live there.
right.
Yeah, they wanted us to write a letter to the tenants that live there saying that they were going to be evicted so that we could have this second home available to us. But then on the back, like write them the letter, but then tell them, hey, we're writing this letter, but we're not actually going to evict you. We're gonna let you be there, but we just need to do this to get the loan approved. And at the time I was staying with some, I forget what she did, but she worked with title or worked for a broker or something. I kind of ran it by her, and she was suspicious and advised that we maybe don't do that, especially since for me at the time all the liability was going to be on me because I was going to be the only one on the loan.
Yeah.
So we walked away from, I think, $500
$500.
of earnest money.
And
And
at the
that
time, that's almost sank us.
That almost derailed our entire investing journey.
I know. That's crazy. I mean, that was a ton of money at the time. I mean, it's still a lot of money now, but now we realize.
Well, especially for you because you couldn't afford a $40,000 home. So
my debt to income was just 100%. Spent all of it. Comes in, goes out.
not a lot has changed in that respect. For you.
Now I designate a certain amount for investments,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
I
that's
spend the rest.
And
I
then you
was
just keep increasing the income so you have more to spend.
Well, I was actually just I was shooting on Friday with a couple buddies, some clays, and I lost. Doesn't matter. But yeah, the guy
You
that I
need
was with,
me.
he was. Yes, I do. Yeah, I play better when you're around.
These country boys. I had to
Colin,
come out
Colin
there.
smoked everybody last
I had to
time.
come out there and whoop on you guys from all the way from LA.
Oh, Tony's pretty good, but we got to go in when you're up here in September.
Was Tony there when I shot?
Yeah.
And I whooped him.
I think he might have been using his pump shotgun though.
Doesn't give me a pump shotgun.
Okay. All right. Well, regardless, they were asking me how much money I put away into retirement, and my answer is always zero. No money to retirement. My 401k is dry. My 403b is dry. But then we start talking, and we start talking business, and then I tell them everything I've done to set up for my retirement in the future. It's just not the traditional retirement accounts, and they're like, "Oh, okay, he knows what he's doing." Like, yeah. You better sit down.
Well, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, we're not very well versed in the traditional investing strategies. I mean, the 401k, 403b is pretty simple. You just max out your contributions at work. And to a certain extent, I think if you're working a W-2 job where you're fully benefited, I almost think that you should max that out anyways, or at least up to their match, because if you're not, then you're just leaving money on the table. But then the fees, I don't know.
Well,
I don't trust it.
I never liked the fact that you couldn't touch it till you're 60, because I'm setting myself up to retire way before 60. Plus, I don't like people telling me what to do. So, and then I had one other point. Where did the point go? Oh, and it's a tax saving strategy for now, because they say you're gonna, like, when you retire, you're not pulling in the same income. You'll be taxed at a much lower rate. I absolutely think I'm gonna be just earning more and more income throughout my life. I don't ever expect to take a step down because of all my businesses and investing that I'm doing now. I expect to make more money when I'm 60 than I do now when I'm, not
I
60.
I think we will make more money when we're 60 than now when we're not 60.
Yeah.
But but I also think that by the time we're 60, we will have things dialed in where we don't have a lot of taxable events just because we'll have our strategy dialed in so well.
Yeah.
But I do think well, and then the other thing is just that whole thing of when you're W-2 and your paycheck's coming in and so much of it is getting taken away for taxes, so it makes the most sense to hide some away in your 401k so that it's not taxed. The way we're doing things, we can eliminate a lot of that tax liability based on our current strategy. So then again, that doesn't apply so much. And
Right.
then I don't know, maybe by keeping that money and just investing it, we're getting a lot more than whatever their match is anyway. So
Yeah. Well, and right
I'm
before we recorded, we just had our taxes filed finally from last year. And sorry to anybody who I recommended the CPA to. So, but I'm getting a pretty hefty refund, and in my mind, I'm like, I don't remember paying this much taxes throughout the year. So I'll
yeah.
take as much as I can get. This is great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. So anyways, 401k, 403b, I mean at the very least if that's all you got going, I think you should do it, especially if you're
Right.
like single,
Well,
making decent money W2.
and it takes a few years to actually learn any of these strategies and to implement some of these strategies. So it's a great easy way to get started right now, like with your next paycheck.
Yeah. Well, and a guy I've been working with recently, he's a doctor at the hospital, and dude is just like he just works all the time, makes a ton of money, and every time I'm trying to kind of like strategize with him as far as what he can do to decrease his taxable income, he's W-2 at his two higher paying jobs, and so he doesn't have those write-offs like he does with his 1099 jobs. The 1099 jobs are fine. He can write off a ton of stuff and kind of break even there and not pay high taxes. But on these other ones, I want to say he said he was getting taxed or somewhere around like 40% or something.
Yeah.
And 40, 45. So basically half of the year he's working for free, which is just crazy to me and extremely frustrating. But he works so much. He's not married, so he can't get the real estate professional status. And it's just kind of a tricky position to be in. So in his case, he has his 401ks all maxed out, 403bs, whatever he can contribute to, he has all maxed out because he's trying to just get his like lower his taxable income as much as possible.
Yeah.
But
So,
ultimately,
so for people that are making that much money, it's really hard to explain to them the whole real estate professional status, because if he cut back to halftime or just less than halftime, say he's making $1 million now, if he cuts back to halftime, only makes $500,000. If he invested all of that into a $2 million property, you depreciate all that, he would pay zero taxes. But it's hard for them to understand, because cutting back from $1 million to $500,000, that's
yeah.
got to be tough.
Yeah, and I think for him, I don't know, just in talking to him, it seems like a lot of what I think he's very passionate about what he does. He loves the dude's brilliant. I mean,
He just loves making money for Uncle Sam.
no, not that, just the work, like
Yeah.
being a doctor,
Well,
because
no, that's good.
he's an ICU doc, and then he's an ER physician, then he works at a substance abuse clinic, and the guy's just doing a ton of stuff. But I think he wants to work his way up in the system, and I think a lot of it is more it's I mean, obviously he wants to make money, but it's I think more than the money, it's like he just really likes what he does and wants to do more of it and grow into that. So it's hard to in his case, that was my thought. I was like, why don't you just cut back to a point where you're not like making all this money? Because at a certain point, even cut back to where you're only being taxed at like a 30% rate.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to make roughly the same amount of money. but I think it's more. There's more to it than
Right.
just the money for him. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of tricky.
He obviously doesn't need the money anymore, but yeah, he's doing it
Yeah.
because he loves it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I told him, I was like, dude, honestly, like at the end of the day, like your best bet is to just marry a realtor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's honestly the only way that you're gonna get real estate so he has short-term rentals and he could potentially get
Yeah.
tax savings through the short-term rental loopholes or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's what I told him. I was like, dude, you just need to buy like $1 million Airbnb and materially participate. But then he has one, but I think a lot of he uses a property management company, so that eliminates him from being able to
Yeah.
claim that.
I
So
think, I mean, this is probably not the right thing, but if you materially participate for the first year and that's the year that you depreciate it in, then I think the next year you can hand off to a management company. But that's still a lot of work for the first year.
yeah, yeah, and I don't know if that's accurate or not. So
Yeah, that might not be. Yeah.
check our facts, but
Check that with the IRS.
yeah. So this is great. We've gotten through one property,
I know. I know.
one property that we didn't even buy.
This is why. This is why. Let's just keep moving. Keep moving.
Yeah,
This is
keep
gonna be a
moving. All right,
this is gonna be a two-part series. You'll get we'll
two or three.
2 or 3. Honestly, it might be. All right, so the second property we ever looked at, we bought. So
That's
that's pretty good.
that
That's
actually might not be true though, because you remember when you went and looked at those super sketchy.
not in Green Bay.
No, no, in were they in Green Bay?
The ones that had bullet holes in the siding, and my realtor said, "I don't feel safe here. I want to leave right now." Was
You,
that?
you, you went with so this would have been 2020, and I think it was prior to us purchasing the first house. I think it was you and your dad went with a realtor, and I set it up with a contractor to go
Oh
with you.
no. Okay, those were in Anago. Okay,
Anago, that's right. Yeah,
different situation.
yeah. But these were like sketchy, full rehab, like full remodels.
Just the electricity upgrade would have been 40 grand, which was more than the house. And the guy that we did the walkthrough with, he's like, honestly, if you're not going to do any of the work yourself, this is not going to make you any money.
Yeah. But I think at the time we were big on the Burr method. We'd heard about this Burr method and we heard all these people doing well with it. And so I want to say we had like 4 or 5 homes lined up that you went and looked at.
Yep.
And all of them were very cheap with a lot of room for improvement.
So much room for improvement. And this is me. At this time, I'm a new CRNA, no construction background. I'm a complete,
Yeah. But
yeah,
I
just
did but this time I think we had been listening to podcasts and reading books, and so one of the things they said was have your contractor walk these homes with you. And
yeah.
so I did set that up, which I don't know why we stopped doing that.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Well, and also he charges $50 per house. And at the time, like we're like, oh, $300 and we're not buying any of these. That hurts. So
Yeah,
at this point, we're, $800 in the hole.
that's true. I
I
forgot
don't I
about
don't know
that.
if we can dig ourselves out of that.
Yeah. I don't know if we counted that $800 when we said that we had no money left in the business.
So we still have $800 in the
We need to
business.
pay ourselves back. Plus interest.
But we had that one dinner that we had in California, so that kind of
Oh, the amuse bouche.
yeah.
Oh
I
man.
think we've talked about that, but we'll mention it again, I'm sure, later in this or the next 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was in between the first one that we made the offer on and the next one that we purchased, which was May of 2020. We bought our first single family home.
Yeah. But back to those that we walked through with the contractor, like those were in rough shape, like foundation issues, like asbestos siding, every single one of them. They were like $20,000 houses that we were going to hopefully put in like 50 grand and get it to be worth 100. But
Yeah,
at the time, like no houses in Anago were worth 100. Now they're all worth 100, but not back then.
yeah, yeah. So fast forward to the one we bought. You know the numbers on that one. I should let
I
you.
sure do.
I was gonna say I should let you explain the ones that you know the numbers on.
This is the only one. All right. So this was so we had been connecting with a local realtor. I had actually done a couple other walkthroughs with this particular realtor. But he took us to this one. It was a foreclosure. $32,000 is where it was listed.
I think he actually brought this one to us as well
Yes.
because
Yep,
we
he
had
did.
been looking on Zillow, and they always say get your team and one of the is like a rock star realtor. He was
Or someone who does this part-time on the side.
I was gonna say, or just any realtor
I think
was
this
what we
guy,
settled for.
I think he was like a teacher at the high school or something. He did this on this, something like that. I feel like that was the case.
Yeah, but we linked up with him. We linked up with him on the first deal. He was the one who got us the first deal, and then when that fell through, we salvaged that relationship. I think he understood
Yep.
why we didn't buy it, so he was okay with that. We salvaged that, and then he actually brought this one to us. He actually said, "Hey, this new one's coming to market. I think this would be a good one for you guys." So,
Yeah. Yeah. So
whatever
it was,
realtor you have,
yeah. So actually I think it was foreclosed listed at 30,000 actually, because then we
it
came
was
in.
32.
Was it 32? Oh, and then we
Yeah.
paid 35. That's right. Okay, it was
Yeah.
32,000 bank owned foreclosure. You guys know how that works. And then the bank was
maybe you
listing
don't.
it, or maybe you don't. People buy a house and you foreclose on it. when they don't pay the mortgage, the bank will take it back. Anyway, so a lot of times banks are not in the business of rentals or real estate, so they just
Yeah.
list it at what their debt is on it. So if somebody pays 40 grand and they put 10% down, then the bank will just list it at 36 just to get it off their books. Anyway, this one was listed at 32. Our realtor's like, hey, there's actually a couple other interested buyers. This is a best and final offer. So the bank will just take offers, and whichever is the best, they accept it. So we're like, okay, well, 30, it's listed at 32. We don't know much at this point. So we're just like, well, let's just throw out 35. Maybe we'll get it. And at the time, I know we were hesitating a ton. We're like, this is scary. We're paying $3,000 overpriced. Like it felt like such a bad move.
Yeah.
Looking back, it was not, but we ended up getting that house for $35,000. We must have been the highest offer. I don't know if a couple of them came in low or a couple of them came in at 32,000. We probably could have gotten it at 33,000, but
That was the beginning. That was the beginning of our amazing deal negotiation.
but we got it for 35 and closed it cash. So Colin was doing a lot of travel nursing, so he had a pocket that was full at the time. I was a new CRNA, so I ignored some of my student debt for a few months, and we put our money together and bought it all cash. And then somehow we put together another 20,000 between the two of us to fix it up. We really
I think we both had a decent amount of savings at the time.
Well, and this was about a year into our talking about buying something, so we had a year of both of us saving up for something like this.
Yeah, and Jen and I were both traveling at the time.
Oh, that's right.
And this was right at the beginning of COVID, but we had gotten a pretty good contract, and we were both traveling, and we were both making decent money. So we would have actually Jen and I, for us, had been able to. I think we had paid off like $50,000 of debt, and saved enough money to put down cash for, I think it was like 25 or 30 grand. It was about 30 grand that we came in with.
Yeah.
Each of us, 28
right.
or something.
Well, but then we also out of pocket for the rehab.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
20, it was like, because it was
sure.
half Josh's family, half the Davis family, and or the Condado half. I don't want to confuse things.
But somehow Jennifer felt like she contributed 30% of it.
Hey man, you guys settled that deal in Chicago. I wasn't even there, so that's your fault.
I mean, I'm just glad I don't have to manage anything right now.
Yeah,
Joke's on her.
We all know how Josh's management skills are, but
yeah, I managed the one property for 2 months.
Oh yeah, we haven't even gotten to that one. But
we'll get there.
But yeah, so 55,000 all in.
Yeah, we redid siding, roof. We did a front porch. We really didn't do much on the inside aside from bringing in some new appliances.
Yeah.
And then after that was all done, we were $55,000 all in, and it reappraised for 80 grand. And then we did a cash out refinance for 75% loan to value and got $60,000. So paid ourselves back. And if you can do some math, which I usually cannot, we got $5,000 surplus, which we split between the two of us. And we're like, this is God's answer to our prayers. Let's do this a million more times.
Yeah. But even then,
that's what stoked the fire.
Yeah, that definitely. And then the next property completely extinguished the fire. But thankfully, it took so long to extinguish the fire that we had a new fire burning that kept us going.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. So yeah, that one. I mean, that house we ended up selling a couple years later. So like I said, we were $55,000 all in, and we sold it a few years later for 115, right? I think that was the final price.
Yeah. But yeah, just I mean, like, so we bought it for $35,000 cash in 2020 and sold it. Was it 2024 we sold it?
Yes.
We sold it in 2024 for 115. And we didn't do a lot of work on the inside, which was part of the reason it didn't go for more. But
yeah, it was cash flowing the whole 4 years.
It was cash flowing the whole 4 years. We had a couple events like water heaters, and even in the beginning, we had to replace an AC unit that we should have done in like the initial rehab that ate into that $5,000 of surplus we had. But we still got all our money back, plus probably a couple grand, and then had this property that was cash flowing for the next 3 or 4 years. But in terms of our decision to sell that one, I think like Josh mentioned earlier, when we were going and touring these Anago homes, nothing in Anago was selling for $100,000 at the time. All these smaller homes were selling, $50,000, $60,000, maybe $80,000. But throughout COVID, I think like 2020, 2021, prices shot way up. And then, but that there hadn't been, I don't think there had been an event like that where equity increased so much on these type of properties for a long time. Equity growth in that area was very slow prior to that. So there was this huge increase in equity, and we were looking at it, because some people talk about what ROE, return on equity, holding these properties, letting them increase in value. But when we finally decided to sell it, we were looking at the fact that this area had done this huge jump and probably was not going to do anything like that ever again. And the growth over the next 5, 10, 20 years was going to be pretty slow. So we just decided to sell it, cash in.
Yeah. And we may be wrong, but we don't think so.
Yeah. And even if we are wrong, I mean, it's tough you can't predict everything. I mean, there was a 3-bedroom condo I should have bought in 2011 when I moved into the apartment that I lived in for 12 years. But, who knows what would have happened. And you can't go back and change things, unfortunately, but we just try and make decisions based on, what we're looking at, what we can see, what we think we know. And that's how we decided to sell that one. And I'm confident with it. There's more to it too. We were also trying to trim a lot of these single family properties, get those out of the portfolio so we could just focus on the mobile home parks. So a couple factors in that decision, but ultimately just didn't see a lot of growth in the future. And it was just,
and plus like we made, I don't know what's math on that, 50 grand after taxes and fees and stuff. We made 50 grand, and in our minds we can use that 50 grand to go buy another mobile home creatively the way we're doing stuff.
Yeah,
which we'll get to that in the future, but yeah, we're using very minimal down payments to buy larger portfolios now.
Yeah, that one, well, yeah, we bought it cash. So and then
oh, that's true. So we made 100 grand then because we got all our money back again. Well, no, because we had already done the cash out refinance.
Yeah, we done the cash out refi. I think at the time we sold it for, I think, was it 117 or 113? And we owed, I think, like 50 something on it because we'd paid it down a little bit. I don't know. And then honestly, like we should probably be doing better documentation, but excuse me. Over the last I thought it was just a yawn. Over the last few years,
you're getting old, 38.
Yeah, I start choking on my own saliva. Like we didn't document very well, this being our first property, what our cash flow was each year. So total money we made on the property over the course of the 3 or 4 years we owned it, plus what we sold it for, I'm sure we made 50 grand or so on it. It'd be interesting to go back and look at, but not interesting enough for me to actually do the work.
It's in the past. Doesn't help us just to know that.
It does not, no.
All right, our second property that we actually closed on, a full gut rehab. It was a $22,000 house that we purchased. We're like, we can't miss. After we did that first house, we're like, this is it. We can't miss.
We We're BRRRR experts at this point. So if you don't know, BRRRR is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So the idea is you're buying these things at a discounted rate or for $3,000 over asking, if your numbers work, and then you're remodeling it, putting renters in, refinancing it, and then repeating, going and doing it again and again, because the idea is that you're just recycling the same money over and over again. And in
Mhm.
our case, we did recycle the same money. We took that money we made, or the money we got back from that refinance, and reinvested it into this new property, which we did have a contractor walk this one, but we came to find out later that he was referred to by another service person, like contractor that we used, as a weekend meth user. Unconfirmed, but I
We
could see
we
it.
didn't want him working on the weekend, so we felt like it would be okay.
Yeah, but this guy was, I mean, he was, honestly, he was what we could afford at the time, and he got that first one done for us, and it went well. Um, but yeah, it was a little rough.
Yeah, but this one we knew it was going to be a full gut rehab, so we didn't get an inspection. We didn't do anything like that. We just had this contractor walk through, which was more or less okay enough.
Yeah.
And we put an offer on this. It was listed at 23,000, right? And we were like, it's too much. we'll, t- we'll take it for 22.
It might have been 29 and we offered 23.
Okay, and accepted at
Yeah.
23.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, not bad. I mean, we felt like this was a pretty good deal. But
No,
for
and
a full gut rehab,
yeah, and I think if we had done it, well, anyways, you can get into the numbers and then we can.
yeah. Well, I don't even really know how much it took us to fix it up. I
So
just know it was
initially,
a lot of money
I
over
think
2 years.
the initial estimate was that, price of the home and everything, we would be all in at about 100 grand.
Yeah.
And then our plan with this one was to do the same thing, rent it out, refinance it, keep it. Um, but another thing early on we didn't do enough of was, kind of market research in the area. And I think based on the price, and then, times changed, finance rates were different. It would have been roughly, it probably would have been about $1,200 a month for our debt service, or maybe it was 1,000. We would have had to rent it for 1,200, but nothing in that area was renting for $1,200 a month. And it was a 5-bedroom, 2-bath, and it was a good space, but there just wasn't really a market for that kind of home. And then after 2 years of remodeling it, we were just like, no, we're done with this. We just want it. Plus, part of the reason too was just that we didn't use like a legit contractor. I think if we'd used a legit contractor who did everything right, it would have cost us a lot more money, but we would have gotten it done sooner, and then we actually probably would have been able to sell it for a lot more than we did.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but
even once we thought things were done, we had to get another plumber to go in and fix stuff, and another was an electrician also to go in and fix stuff. Or was it just a plumber?
yeah, I think it was like an electrician. We had to go in and do some foundation work. We had to do
Yep.
some. So one of the things. So when we went to sell it, that buyer did an inspection, and
And then a lot we saw the inspection, we're like, oh.
foolishly they did an inspection.
We saw this and we're like, oh, we didn't know that was there. Because then the buyer actually was kind of like coming at us like we did this on purpose. We're trying to hide stuff and sell
Oh,
it.
it looks super sketchy. Yeah,
Yeah.
like for sure, it looks
Yeah.
super sketchy. Like, hey, there was a fire in the attic. We're like, what? But like,
Yeah, and foundation
we
issues.
but we legitimately
It's
did not
it's
know.
standing up just fine.
Yeah, I was like, foundation? Well, it looks straight. Like, what are you trying? But yeah, we legitimately did not know that there were all these issues because we skipped the inspection. And when the guy was doing the walkthrough, he was checking everything out, but I mean, apparently he didn't go and look at the foundation or climb up into the attic to see that there had been a fire up there. But structurally, the roof was intact because they re-roofed the house, so there's guys crawling around on the roof and they never fell through. So I mean, that was. But
So win.
another thing that could have been an issue was, like, if there had been some structural thing and somebody fell through, I don't know if this contract, I think he was a licensed contractor, but I don't know if he had contractor's insurance or anything like that. So if somebody had fallen through on our property, that might have come back on us. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it would have been his mom because a lot of times she was out there working for him.
That's right. Yeah, if you've listened to some of our early episodes, we talked about this contractor getting his mom out there to paint with him and plaster and
Drywall.
yeah, and she's like, I mean, no shade at her, but she's pretty old. Like she probably shouldn't have been doing this, filling her
Yeah.
lungs with all this dust.
Well, and I went out and worked with him a few times, doing drywall and stuff, and it's not easy work. You're
Yeah.
either hanging the drywall, which moving around is heavy, or you're sanding, which is just sanding's not fun, and it's especially when you're sanding drywall mud, it's just crazy dusty. And I think he even had her helping him hang drywall on the ceiling, which I don't even know how he did that, but yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. At that point, we realized we are not flippers. And
No.
I think that was even our last burr.
Yeah. Well, we got so sick of that whole situation. And yeah, by the time we sold that, we had already gotten our first mobile home park, and we're not there yet, but we'll get there. But that's a lot better, and we like our strategy that we're working on now.
Yeah. But that was yeah, so we bought that in I want to say we bought that early 2021 and we didn't sell it till like June of 2023 or something. But yeah, I think we were all in right around 100,000 and then after the new person got their inspection, we had to go back and put another 25 grand into it. So by the time we sold it, I think we sold it for like 140, but with realty fees, like commissions and all that kind of stuff, we barely broke even. However, we did got our initial money back, so it was cool because it was like a gift from 2021 us to 2023 or 2024 us of all this cash that had been tied up in this house for so long.
Yeah.
So and the only thing I would say there is like the one thing that didn't hurt us there was because we did buy it cash. We didn't have a lot of, we didn't have like a monthly debt service we were having to pay or anything like that. So we could kind of get away with it. We were paying property taxes, but it was super minimal. And then there was like some utilities we had to pay because the guy was in there working, using gas and electric.
Or living in there for a
Well,
little
yeah,
bit.
maybe he was living there. I don't know. Yeah, because that was the other thing too. We would get these bills, and I don't know if he was living there or if he just forgot to turn the heat off. But we'd get these bills for these gas bills that were $200, and we're like, "This place is empty. Why are we paying this much?" So, lot of lessons learned on that one.
All right. The third property that we bought,
Was 3 properties.
it was 3 properties at once. So
Yeah.
Colin actually found these on Zillow. He was just searching. He's like, "Hey, I think this same guy owns all 3 of these separate listings. Let's offer on all of them. Maybe we'll get a steep discount."
I don't remember if that was your mom's idea or mine.
I think it was yours. Pretty confident on that one.
Well, but yeah, it was yeah, just looking on Zillow. I don't know how I knew it was the same owner.
Because I think it does it not say the. Oh no, I guess I would say listing agent unless he listed it himself.
Yeah, maybe I think your mom was involved in that somehow. Cause so anyways, fast forward to now, we've walked away from the high school realtor, high school like teacher slash realtor, and your mom was now licensed in Wisconsin. So this was the first deal that we started working with her on as our agent. So we just figured, hey, if we're gonna be paying realty fees, they might as well stay in the family.
Right. Yeah, and my mom was a realtor in Colorado and then came back and wasn't planning on getting a realtor license again. And we were like starting to get motivated to buy stuff, and we're like, "Hey, somebody's getting these realtor commissions. Why should it not be you?"
Yeah. And so well, anyway, she got her license, and since then she's been doing very well in that area. So, but yeah, somehow we knew that the same owner owned these 3 different properties. He had them listed. I think the whole portfolio was listed at a total of 325, and we thought if we come in with a lower offer to buy all 3 of them, so it was a duplex, triplex, and a fourplex, then we could get a decent discount on these. So this was going to take our portfolio from 2 units to 11 units with 1 acquisition. So we're all very excited. And we were also looking at these at this time. we didn't have the trauma of that. We're like, this was the very, very beginning, because this was shortly after we bought
Yes.
that other house. And so we hadn't realized how terrible we were at the Burr method and flipping. But that was our plan. Like, they all needed work. We were going to come in, we were going to do the work, we are going to raise rents, get everything to where they should be, and then refinance the whole portfolio, take money out, keep going. But because all our money was tied up in that second house we had bought for this portfolio. So anyways, it was 325. We offered 275 and he accepted immediately, and we regretted not offering 250.
He accepted like in a matter of 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. I remember we were at dinner.
It was your
for my
dad's birthday. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, and I stepped outside, and when they were telling us that the offer was accepted, and I was all, excited. And that was probably the first time my dad told me to stop investing in real estate. No, he doesn't say stop investing. He's all, are you sure? You sure you want to be buying another property right now? Yes.
The economy. He's like, the economy.
Yeah, my dad's conservative, I will say. And it's worked for him, so I don't blame him.
He's ultra something. He's ultra something.
Yeah. But anyway, so we got our offer accepted for 275, but now we're like, okay, how do we actually buy this? Because all our money was tied up in that second property. So in this situation, Josh became Zaddy.
Oh, this is when I earned the title Zaddy. I forgot about this. So I had owned my primary residence for, I guess that had been 3 years, and inflation had already taken a little bit of a toll. Not a huge toll, but a little bit. And I had a little bit of equity in my primary residence. So I went to one of the banks here. I said, hey, can I get a HELOC, which stands for Home Equity Line of Credit? And they said, yes, you can. And so I was approved for $80,000, and we used all of it. That was almost that was the amount that we needed. I think we needed 70 something, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And so we used my HELOC money, which is scary to a lot of people because that's your primary residence that you're just forking over a bunch of money to buy some rental properties for. But I stare at risk in the face and I say, what is this all? No, my wife was a little nervous. I was not nervous. I didn't even think twice. I was just like, we're getting rich off of these rental properties in the boonies of Wisconsin. Let's keep rolling. And so we used basically 80,000 of my HELOC, which was all of it at the time, bought these properties. And that ended up being about, what is that, 20% of the down payment, somewhere around there?
Yeah, it was more than, because 20% would have
little more
been about 60,000.
Is that all I did? Maybe
yeah,
that's all I did. Maybe that's all I did.
so.
Okay,
Yeah.
60 grand.
I think you were approved for 80, but we needed like 60 or so.
That's right.
And then maybe we used some of it for some of the rehab.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Because I remember owing most of the 80 when we eventually sold those properties.
Yeah. So that's a great strategy, and that's still a great strategy because there's a ton of people that have just a lot of equity in their houses. Granted, you're going to be paying more for your rental properties now, but it still works still works well most of the time. Yeah. Especially with people not wanting to refinance into these rates at 7%. Some people still have 3% interest rates on their mortgage. You can still get a HELOC and use the equity that way.
Yeah. I mean, we don't own a primary residence, but like if we did, that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, do not refinance. Just do the HELOC, because then it doesn't affect your original loan.
Yep.
And if you're locked in on some of these great loan rates, you don't want to touch that.
Yeah, so that's back when I had a 3% interest rate. Those were the days.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. but you can do this. You can pull a bunch of money. So a lot of people don't think they can get into investing because they don't have any money. But that's one strategy. Self-directed IRAs, you can invest from that. That's a little trickier because you're not actually getting the money back to you. It's going back into your IRA. So you're not creating passive income now, but you're creating passive income that's going to benefit you in the future. In that strategy. But yeah, this is great. I mean, if you got that money just sitting there, or that equity just sitting there in the house, the only thing about it that you have to do, and underwriting's a whole thing. You're essentially buying buying a property 100% finance, because even though you're putting 20% down, so you're only paying 80% of the loan to the bank, you're also paying a percentage on this HELOC money that you borrow, and that's usually tied to whatever like the market rate is at the time.
Yeah, I know
So
ours was prime, which prime is just basically designated by the government or the federal fund rate. I'm not even sure, but prime is whatever number they say it is, and then the bank will tack on either 1 or 2% on top of that.
yeah. So if you're factoring all that in and the numbers work, then it's great. But you can't think of it as like, oh, I put 20% down, so this is all cash flow, because you're paying interest on that 80,000, let's say, that you borrowed. So there is that to consider. But
Which
if
we
you can
did
do
not.
it, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't know enough to know that we should be factoring that in. I think when the time, anyways, so we bought this. I was gonna say when we sold, I think we were able to like recoup all that, but um, yeah, it's not something we thought about going into it. And and something else I think on the HELOC topic that we got into later with somebody that we worked with was they didn't want to take money from their savings account. They want to take money from the HELOC. And like I can totally understand that, because I think, and it's again, it's like that thing you were saying about like these doctors that are hiring income earners, like changing the way you think about money and debt and interest rates and taxes and all that stuff. But the HELOC is just there, right? So if you get approved for it, you essentially now have this $80,000 bank sitting there that you can access. Is there a certain
It's
time period?
well, I mean, it depends on the bank, I guess, but the one I had, I had the ability to pull from it and deposit into it for 10 years, and then at 10 years it locked and became a fixed rate.
Okay. So essentially you have this new savings account, and you only pay interest on it when you take from it.
Yep,
So it's not like as soon as you get approved for this thing, now you're paying interest on it.
correct.
You're only paying interest on what you use. So essentially it's just there and you don't have to touch it.
Yeah.
But so with a savings account, like I can understand the idea of like, hey, I have this savings account, this is kind of my security blanket, and not wanting to drain that. But then having the HELOC, that's kind of now your new backup. So people wouldn't feel comfortable draining the savings account, but then it was like, and this is in no way this is just for informational purposes, educational.
This is one of my
Where
family members that
this is
has
100%.
he's thought about debt and financing the same way for the last almost 60 years, and it was hard to wrap his head around a new way to think. He's
So I was
like,
trying to be a little more discreet than Josh, but because no, I mean, like the purpose of this is not to like I really don't want to say throw shade, but now that's like the only way I can think. These Gen whatever we're dealing with nowadays have ruined my way of thinking. Um, but yeah, like this is not any like no disrespect, nothing else. It's just like kind of a learning opportunity and like a different way of thinking. But yeah, instead of accessing the savings account to invest with us, they access the HELOC, and we're paying 7 or 8% on the HELOC money when they could have just used the savings account and been making 10%, which then and it's there. And then if something happens, you have the HELOC as a backup, and then you only pay the interest on it when it's being used.
right. So instead of I don't know the exact numbers, but so instead of making $100 or $1,000 a month, this particular person was making like
200
per month, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of it was going back to the interest on the HELOC.
Yeah. When you could have just used the savings and had your HELOC as a backup. So
Yeah.
just different ways to think about things. And like this has been, honestly, I mean, going back to my dad, this has been a much different way of thinking for me, because my parents rented and bought everything cash and never went into debt, never did anything, and that was like very much ingrained in me.
Mhm.
So as we've gotten into these deals and now we're heavily leveraged,
Mhm.
um, that's been a big adjustment for me in terms of just being okay with that and realizing like, hey, like we can actually use this debt to our benefit.
Right. Well, and we're young. We're in growth mode right now. I'm sure down the road we'll become a little bit more safety minded in like
Yeah,
retaining money rather than growing money. Um, but there's
certainly.
also there's some common sense that's a little bit involved in our decision making as well.
So Josh is being more snarky than I am, just for the record. Respectfully from me. I wasn't saying it for any other reason than a teaching opportunity.
Only two people will know what we're talking about. Everybody else is like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good lesson learned.
So, um, so yeah, that was our.
We need to speed up a little bit.
I think we just stretch this out because the thing is that I think that's what's been so valuable for us. I want to say that we did a good job educating ourselves and learning, but we didn't let our lack of education slow down our growth and our just continuing to push forward.
Yeah.
Because as you'll see here on every single property, there's at least two mistakes probably we made on every single property. Um,
Mhm.
but we just kept learning from them, and we never like we've interviewed some people on here that talked to us about how before they bought their first property, they did all the market research, they had graphs all made up and systems all laid out, and like that is 100% the best way to do it because then you're going into it with a plan, and once you start buying the stuff, you're much better prepared for it. But if that's going to slow you down from buying the first property or making that first move, then I think you should just go for it. And that's kind of been our style, is to just go for it and figure it out as we go. But anyways, the point is, I think each property, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from them.
Mhm.
So even if we have to stretch this out over a couple weeks, I think it's worth kind of diving into each property.
Yeah. All right. So our timeline is, what are we at? 2020,
This is like early 2021, like
early 2021.
April, I
Okay.
think April of 2021.
And then this is where there was a break where we didn't do a whole lot. We were still trying to get our feet under us, trying to figure out what to do with this, who's managing what. And I think my understanding, it was never communicated, and we've talked about this before, but it was my understanding that I provided the money, I became Zaddy. You guys handle everything else involved.
Except to be fair, from our end being Jen and I, this was the only property where you provided all the money.
And and it makes sense, right?
Yeah. But no, this was where kind of things kind of split, where Jen and I decided that we were gonna, or like our contribution to this particular purchase was that Jen and I would manage the portfolio and Josh would provide the money. And I think at the time, maybe we thought that's how things would continue going forward, but as it turned
Right.
out, that's not
Well,
how.
and we started buying things a little more creatively, so where we didn't have to come out of pocket with money at all, or much of it.
Yeah. I think our next
So
purchase,
in a way, I was providing.
eh, not independently.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And fast forward on that portfolio, the market again kind of went up, and we just ended up, we plan on doing the Burr method on those, refinancing them and keeping them long term. What we found out was that there was a lot of deferred maintenance, and as we were trying to do things like for example, one the triplex, we kept having issues with the roof leaking, so we're trying to do patchwork, and eventually it just came down to, we need to replace this whole roof. And when they went to replace the roof, I think there was 3 or 4 layers of shingles that had just been layered on top of each other over the past years.
Yeah, and that's
And
not that uncommon when you're doing a new roof to have to put a new roof on top of the old roof, but not 4 times
yeah.
because that roof was so heavy. It was sagging pretty
Yeah.
something fierce.
And I think we went in and did a metal roof. So that was a nice one.
Is that what we did?
Yeah, we did a metal roof.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. So but we ended up turning around and selling that whole portfolio. I think off the first sale, we were able to pay back your HELOC.
Yep.
So that was good. Gave them a little peace of mind to have that taken care of. And then the next one, the next one we sold, we actually 1031 into our second mobile home park. And then the fourth one, or the third one we sold, I think just was a little money we got to cash out. We probably reinvested it back in the business because I don't remember getting money from that.
Yeah, I don't think we did. I think that went to something else.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one at this point.
Yeah.
But
so
okay,
moving
so
on to
moving on. So we went to. So I think we felt a lull. We went to some real estate summit, right?
you
That
guys
was,
did. I didn't even go to that.
that's right. Yeah, me and Jennifer went there, and we're still trying to learn as much as we can. We're trying to figure out why it's so easy for everyone else and why we're struggling so much. So we went to this real estate conference where we became educated in how easy it is for everybody else. People are just a lot better at marketing than we realize, because now that we talk to people that we used to think made things look really easy, and they're like, oh no, I've been pulling my hair out for years. This is really difficult. I'm just posting pictures at the beach because I'm at the beach one day a year.
Yeah.
And I save all my pictures and keep posting them.
Just take a lot of pictures on that one day and post them throughout the year.
Yeah. But we went to this conference, and if nothing else, it was very motivational, just hanging out with people that want the same things and are working harder than most. Like, instead of watching TV, you're on Zillow scrolling. But no, just to be around 2,000 other investors was really fun to see. You see some pretty successful people in there, and it's motivating. And everybody's just on a high at the end of that, ready to do some more investing. And after that one, I think, is when we moved on to our next fourplex.
I want to say we had that fourplex kind of in the works.
Okay.
Or had just bought it before that conference.
Okay.
But maybe not. When was that conference? Do you remember?
Spring. It was warm. It was in Vegas.
Yeah, because we bought the fourplex somewhere around the spring of 2022. So it was somewhere in there. We were already in the process of negotiating this one, or this one came up from that. But yeah, I didn't go. So Josh and Jen came back all pumped. I think Josh was actually kind of more motivated to branch out on his own and do his own thing, which is, shortly after this is when you bought the first duplex.
I did, yeah. And I was starting to make more money as a CRNA. And we didn't have a great situation for me to invest into our business together. Because in my mind, like, I didn't want to bring the money every time and get half of the deal, because I'm looking at a lot of these other bigger syndicators, and in my mind, the people that bring the money usually get 70 to 80% of the deal. And I mentioned that to Colin and Jennifer was like, we're not doing that. There's no chance that's happening. So in my mind, we didn't have a great way for that to work out in the future. And so I was like, well, if I just buy a couple on my own, then we can keep doing our stuff together also.
I would say that throughout our real estate journey, if you're not watching this, you'll see my finger going straight across the screen over the last 5 years, and Josh has just kind of gone like this with different ideas and strategies. It's kind of been,
but we're going up, trajectory up on
trajectory gradually up, and then Josh is just all over the place trying to figure things out, trying to maybe you're the shiny object syndrome.
100%. I'm not.
I mean, I definitely am too. Well, and I think just like personality wise, you and Jen very much need to see results immediately. And I think that kind of leads to a little more shiny object syndrome, because
yes and no. Like, I'm willing to put in a lot of work if I think maybe at some point I'll get paid in return. Like this podcast, for example, like it's been almost 2 years and we're still doing it.
It's fun.
Yeah. It is fun. It's fun. It's fun, but it's fun most of the time. Sometimes I'm like, I really just need to be asleep right now.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's why we did a morning one for you today.
Yes, thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Instead of late last night.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's no, I mean, but I'm guilty of it too. I'll see things and I kind of, that would be cool, and but it's I feel like there's been a lot of like just different stuff going on. But anyway, so you guys went to this conference. You came back, you were both super motivated, kind of in your own way. You maybe started thinking about doing some stuff on your own. I was like, I'm gonna show this fool he needs me. And that was exactly what I thought. So that's what that was a direct quote.
Did you say that?
To myself, yeah.
To yourself. Oh, okay.
Well, to be quite honest, like, I think over time, like, there's probably, if we could do this on our own, it would probably be more beneficial for each of us to do this without the other person. In a sense, like to your point, you at a certain point you were bringing all the money, and so you could have been getting a much better
Mhm.
return than now 33%.
It was 50%. Somehow I
That
agreed
was
to less.
I told you that was you, dude.
Well, it's because
Um,
I'm not bringing the money anymore. I'm doing other stuff. So I think that's why.
well, right. And so as the person bringing the money, like you could probably go somewhere else and get a much better return on your money as that person. And then
Right.
for us as the people doing all the work, we could probably go find investors that we could just get money from at 10%, and we could buy things without you and only be paying 10%.
Hmm.
So, but at the end of the
Maybe.
day,
I'm just kidding. I'm just
we
kidding.
definitely could.
We've done it. So of course we could.
um, but at the end of the day, it's like I think the reason that this was always kind of enjoyable and fun was the fact that we're kind of doing it together. Um, Jen might not agree. I don't know. Some days she would, some days she wouldn't. And same thing for you, probably.
Yeah. No,
Um,
most days I would.
but so that was always my thing. So when you were like thinking about going off on your own, I was kind of like, oh well, I was a little hurt. I'm not gonna lie. So
This was a
so
few
I was
years
like,
ago. We've grown past it a little bit.
yeah, now if he wants to leave, he can go, as far as I'm concerned. No, so at the time I was just thinking like, okay, because we were kind of in that position where what we brought was just the management and like the work, and we didn't have a lot of um capital to invest at that point. And I think even then I knew that we could do it without you, but it was just kind of like, well, that was part of the reason that I got into this and that I wanted to grow this thing was because we are doing it together as, little family run business. So that was what made me. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to
Yeah.
show you like how valuable what we bring to the table, how valuable that is to you, and then you'll
It's
see that you do need us.
and it's absolutely valuable.
Yeah.
And
So
that's why I'm still here.
is
I
it
can't
66
do it.
is it 66% valuable? I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see.
I'm just gonna say yes.
One day we'll see.
I'm just gonna yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
When I lose my 33% and I'm coming to you for 17 and a half or 16 and a half, we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah, that's good.
But no. And to be fair, you are 33.4% and Jen and I are only 33.3.
I have the most.
And we definitely did that just for your ego.
Thank you.
We know what you need. So anyway, so we bought this fourplex, and that one, going back to Josh being Zaddy, was actually we bought 50-50 because I cashed out my retirement to buy this one.
Oh, we both did. We
Yeah.
both did. Which
Yeah.
people frowned at us for doing this. I would do it again, 100%.
I think at our time, she wasn't a CPA, but at the time, our tax preparer, I told her, I was like, you're not going to like this, but I'm going to cash out my 401k so we can buy this fourplex. She's like, you're right. I don't like that, but okay. And we did it, and I definitely don't regret it.
Not at all. Yeah, because I mean, we both put in 50 grand, was it, for this one?
And no, I think it was 25 each.
25 each, and when we go to sell, we're going to be making.
Well, we already cashed out. We already did a refinance and cashed out.
Oh, that's 80. True. That's true. We already made all of our money back even after fees and everything.
Yeah. Because this property had been sitting on Zillow for a while. I'd been looking at it. It's a fourplex. It's unfortunately it's in an HOA, but it's on a lake in this resort community, which is not really a resort, but it had been sitting on Zillow. I think the listing expired, and I went back and looked at it, and we got a hold of the listing agent, and she was able to get a hold of family, and we kind of brought it back. I don't remember. I want to say they had it listed for like $315 or $285, and then what did we buy it for? $235.
$235. Yep.
Yeah. So it had been sitting for a while. So whatever it was listed at, I want to say it was $285. I think we offered $225. We ended up getting it for $235.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it was it was a good deal. We cashed. Oh yeah, because 235 would make sense because it was about 25 each to get it because it was
Yeah. And
20% down.
it's been cash flowing most of the time.
Yeah. Well, like for example, we looked at our 2024. So now we do have better systems and we actually know how much we're making on each property year over year. Um, and the gross rents on this property, there's a lot of different ways to look at potential on these properties. One of them is the 1% rule. So if gross rents are 1% of the purchase price, then it's a good deal. So we bought this for 235, and I think once we had it all full, gross rents were just under 4,000. So in that sense, it was a good deal. And then,
Crushing it.
but there was this thing's part of this crazy HOA. There's all these HOA fees. There's these meetings. They're constantly adding on extra things, and we have a fourplex, which is one physical building, but they charge us as four separate units. So there's 12, I guess, properties they would say in the portfolio or in this resort. And even though we own one building, we own four like votes or I guess
Mhm.
units of
So we do get
responsibility.
4 different votes.
Which is useless because we get outvoted 8-4 every time. No, there's like one other couple in the community, and they usually vote with us, but it's usually 7-5 we get outvoted, so it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
what happens is anytime there's an expense, it's split 12 ways, but we get 4 of the 12. Even though it'll be like mosquito spraying was $1,200, you guys owe us 400, even though we have one building that they're spraying around. So I really don't understand it.
Yeah.
And it's just like an older group of people, and they've been doing things the way they've been doing things for a
And
long time. And
they all own here mostly just so they can live there in the summers as we're investors. And
yeah,
it's quite a bit different mindset. They're like, "Oh yeah, we need mosquito spraying," whereas we're like, "Oh, I mean, we're
yeah.
okay."
Get some what's the stuff? The
We're
DEET?
yeah, DEET or yeah, just there's certain stuff.
Whatever. But yeah.
So that property's for sale if anybody's interested.
Yeah, forget everything we just said. It's for sale. It's a great property. It's super easy. But like last year, we invested a bunch of money into rehabbing one of the units that one of Josh's friends destroyed. And when I say Josh's friends, back to the management thing, we bought this property and Josh was like, "Well, I haven't done any management, so maybe I should take over management of this one to learn." And since we had bought it 50-50, it wasn't the exact same arrangement that we had with the previous portfolio. So he wanted to get his feet wet in the management side of things. And we quickly realized that it was his calling.
It was not my calling.
Yeah.
I honestly have blocked that entire memory from myself. But something along the lines of we had one empty unit. I found someone to rent it. She had been evicted before, but I'm like, I don't think she's gonna do that anything again.
She
Shady.
promised. She promised she
She
wouldn't.
she said she's not. She's got kids now. Of course, she's gonna do everything we ask her to do. And she was on some sort of assistance. I was like, well, that's guaranteed cash flow because the assistance is coming in whether she pays us or not.
Yeah.
And that was the case, but her assistance was 6 months and we never saw anything again.
Well, by
after
the end
that.
of but by the time her assistance wore out, we had started the process or like started mentioning eviction to her.
Yeah, well, because she was smoking, she was doing a lot of stuff. She was, I was gonna say rowdy, like
She was rowdy.
she was rowdy. there was like domestic issues as
Well,
well, which
the
was
thing
kind
wa-
of
yeah. She was on the we obviously we have everybody sign a lease and any adult tenant that's living at the place has to be on the lease. And if you're going to have any adult tenant there beyond a certain amount of time, essentially living there, we have to approve that. And she didn't. And she had this ex boyfriend, current boyfriend, father of her children that was essentially living there. And every time we'd ask her about it, she's like, no, he's not living there. But then everybody else was telling us that he was there all the time. And there were several incidents where the police were called out because he had a criminal record and the police were called out. And yeah, it was a bad scene. And this is older people that go there for vacation. They rent their homes out to families. So it's a nice
right.
little quiet area. And this was definitely, not the kind of people that we wanted to have there. It was a safety issue, it was a noise issue, And we didn't know anything about it until we went out there,
Hmm.
and somebody told us that as they were moving out, we're just inspecting their property. They wanted to sell us some furniture. So we're looking at, and then they tell us, hey, these people next door, they start telling us about it. And at the time we're telling them, like, hey, like, we didn't know any of this stuff. You have to report this stuff to us. We live thousands of miles away. Josh is still a few hours. So we hadn't known anything about any of that. And then they're telling us this. And then I think they left their apartment unlocked and a table got stolen that they were going to sell us, which looked pretty suspicious given the current clientele next door. But
Hmm.
it was a bad situation. So that was our first eviction months later. And just a side note on that one, we were building the case that the boyfriend was disruptive and a issue with the community. Well, by the time we got to trial for this eviction, he had gotten locked up. So the judge actually said, hey, this guy's locked up. So if he's the issue, the problem's solved. But she was also the issue. But thankfully, in the meantime, she had just stopped paying rent. And so it was just a straight, easy eviction because she had stopped paying rent. But had she continued paying rent that whole time, we might not have gotten the ruling in our favor. And we would have had a whole different set of issues where we now would have to try and offer her cash, the cash for keys method where we essentially pay her to leave, which we tried that. um, she wanted a lot more money than we were willing to give her, which in hindsight, we should have just given her like 2 grand to leave because it cost about $6,000 to evict her and
Yeah.
months. And then she'd trash the place. So
Yeah.
yeah, lot there. But anyways, last year we looked at our numbers, and with the refinance, even with having to remodel that unit and some vacancy, I think on that property alone with that refinance, we still made about 60 grand on it. And that was actual money we took.
That was
That
nice. That
that
was
was
very nice.
yeah, that was
Think
really good.
yeah. And that's like, yeah, time. And that's, I mean, this specific unit, time kind of heals everything. Like you looking back, you usually make a lot of money with inflation and just trajectories of what real estate's doing. That's one of those because we got the refinance, and at this point, it was worth a lot more than when we bought it 2 years ago.
Yeah. And we put some money into it, so there was definitely, you know, maybe it wasn't a full 60,000 we made, but I think the refinance was 80 something. So that was good. We paid ourselves back. I think at the time that was the last money we had invested in the business from our personal money. Everything else was just money we'd made from the business. And we were able to pay ourselves back the 25 grand we had each invested. And then cash them out on top of that. So that was cool.
Yeah. Well, so we are well into our recording, way further than way longer than I thought. So we're gonna break this into a few different parts, and then
This is a good break too because
this is almost gonna be a 6-part series. I feel like.
that's fine. It should
Yeah.
be.
All
And
right.
and this is the beginning of our mobile home park investing. So this is kind of a
Yeah.
good part. And
Yeah.
this is where our strategy, like, this was one strategy we had, like saving money, using HELOCs, pulling from retirement. Like that was like kind of the beginning of our investment that we utilized that strategy all along, hearing this stuff about creative finance, interested in it, wanting to get into it, but not having any experience with it.
Mhm.
And then
That's true. This is like where we start to figure out kind of what we're doing. The Before all of this is all fumbling around, just learning,
yeah,
just not being afraid to take risk, but somehow figuring it out and making it all work.
yeah. Because
Which
as
that's
you'll
what
go ahead.
I was gonna say. That's what owning a business is like. Well, real
Oh, for
estate,
sure.
owning a business, it's all the same thing. Nobody knows what they're doing. You just get in there and you're problem solving the entire time. And I don't think anybody becomes an expert problem or an expert business owner. You just get better at solving the problems that come up.
Yeah. And another thing that we've really figured out along this journey is that these people that we thought had done things so easily, um, as we learned and listened to them more, we've come to find out that, oh yeah, they didn't actually hit their stride, or like their business wasn't actually making money and profitable for 10 years. Now granted, there's the exceptions.
Right.
um, but I think in the cases where they were making more money off them sooner, it was like Josh mentioned earlier, it was a lot more work than they let on. And
Mhm.
it wasn't all these days on the beach. It was just like days with your head in the sand, just wanting to like pull your hair out. So that's like there's those two sides of it. But I think yeah, this is where we kind of this was April of 2022. We were just over 2 years into, or right about 2 years into our real estate journey. So we started single family, and then we bought the portfolio that was a duplex, triplex, and fourplex. And I think at this point we're thinking like, okay, we need to start buying like smaller multifamily homes, eventually getting into like, apartment buildings, 16 units, that kind of stuff.
Mhm. And up until this point, we were both full time in the hospital. Everybody, this was all side hustle,
Mm,
second job.
End of 2021, I stopped doing nursing.
So
So
we're
this,
right, or we're past that already.
yeah, we're like middle of 2022 now, and at this point, Jen and I were now living.
That's right.
Yeah, I think Jen was doing some part-time nursing, and I was doing like handyman work
Mm.
because I didn't get the vaccine, and I was actually working in Wisconsin the end of 2021, and was essentially fired from that travel assignment, and then moved back to LA, and I was just doing handyman work. So Jen and I, our lifestyle and everything took a huge pay cut because we went from COVID when Jen and I were each taking home $3,000 a week, so $6,000 a week, to we had a kid. I was only working, but I was still in Wisconsin. I think I was still taking home like $3,000 a week. Um, and then from that to like making like $40 an hour as a handyman, living in LA. So it was
Yeah.
tough.
All right.
But
So
I will say though, the thing that kind of floated us through that time, we always talk about how we haven't made a ton of money from this business personally. We haven't taken a large amount of money in terms of distributions. But what floated Jen and I through this time was, selling that 2-year flip. We got a cash out from that, even though it was not really profit. It was just getting our money back. And then we did this refinance of this fourplex that we bought in April of 2022. Last year we refinanced it, and that got us kind of over the hump to where we are now, where now I'm back to work. Jen was working for a bit until we had our second kid. So I mean, as much as like we kind of say that real estate hasn't made us any money, like it has, and it's definitely allowed me to be out of nursing for a couple years and not be forced to get the vaccine. And however you feel
yeah.
about that, it just gave me the option.
Well, and it's the long game, just like everybody says.
Yeah,
Some people might make it seem like you can do stuff quickly, but I do not think they were being completely honest.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. All right. And we're going to finish our portfolio on the next few episodes.
Yeah, but we will
All right.
finish it, I promise.
We will. We will.
Okay. Yeah, so like and subscribe. But this is probably we're gonna have to clip this to the end of, because we'll split this up into a couple segments so that they're not
Yeah.
just like this long rambling episode. But yeah, like and subscribe. We want to keep this thing going, and
Yeah. Venmo us at no, just kidding. Investing RN.
we need to do that. Yeah, this is completely off topic, but something that really just bugs me is when I'm driving and people like, we just got married, Venmo us this, buy us a drink. I'm like, no. Buy your own drinks.
We should try that.
Yeah, no, we should.
We just got married. Me and you driving through California. We're gonna become billionaires.
Yeah, we need the podcast. Oh, I just realized I have spit up on this shirt. Maybe it wasn't the best shirt to wear.
Dadpreneuring.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, check us out. I don't know, Instagram, TikTok. We got Instagram, we got TikTok, we got YouTube, we've got Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Sometimes they're active.
Do everything.
More recently, not.
Well, it sounds like Josh has got a new hire coming in, so maybe at least the lifestyle CRNA will be more active.
Yes, there's been so many things going on these days. Mostly just anesthesia work related in the hospital, but that's gonna knock on wood, hopefully that settles down and I can actually start posting stuff that people don't really care to see.
Yeah, now that we're post survey, I feel like I can dial in, like I can make this job my own now. I kept equating this to coming into the hospital, like for day shift and taking over a train wreck patient from the shift before. I would 100% of the time I would much rather get the train wreck patient, like from start to finish. I would rather them come in from EMS, me take them and me have them dialed in my way. But like coming into a patient that's just like a mess and like trying to figure out what's been going on and the way they were doing it for like the last 6 or 12 hours is so much harder for me. So now I feel like with the stroke program, this is like my new patient on my own shift and I can just kind of dial it in my own way. And I think that will give me a lot more flexibility and a lot more time and just like bandwidth going forward, because it's just been kind of a mess preparing for this survey. So hopefully
Yeah.
today's July 27th. I'm getting ready to go to Arizona tonight for a stroke conference. So if you're at that stroke conference, you won't know that I'm saying this because you won't hear this for 3 weeks. But,
Yeah.
but I hope I saw you there.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
golf with him. He needs to be fresh because we're going on a trip in September, and he needs to be.
Dude, I need
he
practice.
Know how to golf again.
I got my driver and my putter regripped, so that's all I need.
So that's it.
I'm gonna drive for show and putt for dough.
Happy Gilmore style.
That's right. So, all right.